What if one goodnight text could make her think about you all night? Not just some basic message, but something so powerful it lingers in her mind, sparks curiosity, and sets you apart from every other man she's ever met. You're not here to blend in. You're here to dominate her thoughts. Most men don't get it. They send predictable, boring texts that women forget before they even close their eyes. You're not that guy. You're here because you want to stand out, because you refuse to be overlooked. Women don't want basic. They crave intrigue, confidence, and something that makes them feel alive. These messages aren't just words. They're tools to plant yourself in her mind, to show her you're different, that you understand what most men never will. If you're ready to stop being forgettable and start being unforgettable, stay with me till the end. Let's change the way she looks at you forever. Message 1. Good night. I'll try not to show up in your dreams, but no promises. There's something magical about planting an idea in someone's mind right before they close their eyes for the night. Think about this. When a woman lays her head on her pillow, her thoughts start to wander. And if you've been that man who leaves a lasting impression, those thoughts inevitably circle back to you. But most men miss the mark. Most men text with no strategy, no awareness of how the female mind works. They send generic, lazy goodnight messages like sleep tight or sweet dreams. And then they wonder why she doesn't respond or why she seems uninterested the next day. Here's why. Those texts are forgettable. You, however, are not going to be that guy anymore. You're about to send something that lodges itself in her mind like a spark, something so simple yet so clever that it makes her smile, wonder, and anticipate the next time you text. When you say, "Good night, I'll try not to show up in your dreams," but no promises, you're doing something that 99% of men fail to do. You're creating curiosity and playful tension. You're planting a seed in her imagination. And let me tell you something about women. They live in their minds. A woman's imagination is one of the most powerful gateways to her emotions. And if you can ignite it, you've already won half the battle. This isn't just a line. It's a psychological tactic that leverages her curiosity, her natural tendency to wonder about the unknown, and her desire for excitement. Think about what this message really says. It's confident, it's cheeky, it's flirtatious without being desperate. You're not begging for her attention, you're commanding it effortlessly. And here's the beauty of it. It's a challenge. By saying no promises, you're hinting at something beyond her control, something that you've already subtly suggested she might want. This taps into a primal part of female psychology, the desire for unpredictability and intrigue. Women don't fantasize about men who are predictable, who text the same way every other guy does. They want to be kept on their toes, to feel like they've stumbled onto someone who's different. And this message does exactly that. When she reads this, she's going to do one of two things. Either she'll laugh and think, "Who does this guy think he is?" Or she'll smile and feel a spark of curiosity that she can't quite shake. But here's the kicker. In both scenarios, you win. Why? Because even if she's questioning your confidence, she's thinking about you. And that's the point. You're not trying to be liked by everyone. You're not aiming for safe, lukewarm approval. You're here to leave an impression. And the men who leave impressions are the ones who are remembered. The truth about modern relationships is that most men don't understand how to communicate in a way that stands out. They've been conditioned to believe that being overly agreeable and overly sweet is the way to win a woman's heart. But let's be honest. How's that been working out for most guys? The reality is, women aren't drawn to what's safe. They're drawn to what's intriguing, to what feels like an adventure. They want a man who can make them laugh, make them wonder, and most importantly, make them feel. This message is a masterclass in doing all three at once. When you send this text, Remember, it's not about trying too hard. It's about being effortless. It's about knowing your worth and showing her that you're the kind of man who doesn't just send words. You send experiences. And here's the best part. When she goes to sleep, there's a good chance she's going to dream about you. Not because you're forcing it, but because you've already planted the idea in her mind. That's the power of suggestion. That's the power of being a man who understands how to communicate. Message 2. Rest well, but don't smile too much tomorrow thinking about me. This one takes confidence to a whole new level. It's not just a goodnight text. It's a playful declaration. When you tell her not to smile too much tomorrow thinking about you, you're doing two things simultaneously. You're planting the idea that she will be thinking about you, and you're making her smile in the moment. That's a double win. And here's why it works so well. Women are naturally drawn to confidence. Not arrogance, confidence. And the difference is subtle but profound. Confidence says, I know I'm worth your time. Arrogance says, you owe me your time. And this message is dripping with confident energy. It's cheeky, it's self-assured, and it's delivered in a way that's impossible to ignore. You're not begging for her attention. You're assuming it. And that assumption is magnetic. Because deep down, every woman wants a man who knows his worth, who doesn't need to be validated by her response, but knows she'll respond because he's that compelling. When she reads this message, her first reaction will likely be a smile, but more importantly, she'll start thinking. She'll wonder what it is about you that makes you so sure of yourself. And that's exactly where you want her. Because once she's thinking about you, once you're in her mind, you've already set yourself apart from the sea of men who text her with no intention, no direction, and no impact. Why does this message resonate so strongly in today's world? Because women are tired of bland communication. They're tired of men who play it safe, who try so hard to be liked that they lose all sense of individuality. This message is the opposite of that. It's bold. It's unapologetic. It says, I'm not like the rest. And here's the thing about women. They don't want to be with someone who blends in. They want a man who stands out, a man who can make them feel something different. And when you send this message, that's exactly what you're doing. Now, some of you might be thinking, but what if she doesn't respond? And here's my answer. So what? You're not here to chase after validation. You're here to communicate in a way that shows you know your value. And trust me, when you operate from that mindset, you'll attract women who see your worth and are drawn to it. Because let me tell you something about women. They know the difference between a man who's just texting for attention and a man who texts because he knows he's worth her attention. This message also works because it taps into a universal truth about human psychology. We're drawn to what's unexpected. When you tell her not to smile too much tomorrow thinking about you, you're flipping the script. Most men would never say something like this because they're too afraid of being perceived as cocky. But you're not afraid. You understand that women crave confidence, humor, and intrigue. And this message delivers all three in spades. Message 3. Good night. I hope your pillow isn't jealous that I'm not there. Imagine this. She's lying in bed, scrolling through her phone. She sees your message, and suddenly she's smiling. Not because the words themselves are groundbreaking, but because of the energy they carry. Confidence, playfulness, and a hint of cheekiness. This message delivers it all. And let's not ignore the brilliance of what you're subtly implying. You're making her think about you in a context that's intimate, yet completely innocent. It's a message that teases her imagination without crossing any boundaries. That's why it works. It's flirtation done right. Modern relationships are plagued with mediocrity. Most men don't know how to communicate in a way that sparks emotion. They either come across as too aggressive, trying to force an outcome, or they're so passive that they blend into the background, forgotten before the text notification fades from the screen. This message cuts through all that noise. It's playful, but purposeful. It says, I'm not just texting to fill time. I'm texting because I'm someone worth thinking about. And here's what makes this so powerful. It leverages the element of surprise. She's not expecting a message that anthropomorphizes a pillow. That's not how most guys think. But you're not most guys, are you? You're the man who understands that women crave novelty and emotion. You're the man who knows how to use humor to stand out in a sea of generic texts. And let me tell you something. When you can make a woman laugh, you've already made her feel something. Laughter is a gateway to connection, and connection is what separates you from every other man trying to get her attention. This message also carries an undertone of masculinity. It's bold, it's assertive, and it's delivered with the kind of energy that says, I know my worth. Because let's face it, most men are afraid to be bold. They're afraid of taking risks, afraid of coming across as too much. But that fear is exactly what keeps them stuck in the friend zone, sending safe, forgettable messages that don't move the needle. You, however, are different. You're the man who understands that confidence is the ultimate aphrodisiac. And this message exudes confidence. Women are emotional creatures. They process the world through feelings, intuition, and imagination. When you send a message that paints a picture, like a jealous pillow, you're speaking directly to her emotions. You're creating a mental image that she can't help but think about. And the beauty of this image is that it's light-hearted and fun, yet it carries an underlying message of attraction. You're not saying, I wish I was there, because that would be too direct. Instead, you're letting her mind fill in the blanks. You're giving her just enough to work with, and that's where the magic happens. Most men fail because they over-explain. They try too hard to spell everything out, leaving nothing to the imagination. But the truth is, women don't want everything handed to them on a silver platter. They want to be intrigued, to feel like they're part of the conversation, part of the story. And when you send this message, you're inviting her into a playful narrative that makes her smile, think, and maybe even blush. Now, some of you might be wondering, what if she doesn't respond? And here's the reality. It doesn't matter, because this message isn't about chasing validation. It's about planting a seed. It's about showing her that you're the kind of man who knows how to stand out without trying too hard. And trust me, even if she doesn't respond immediately, she'll remember this text. She'll remember how it made her feel. And that's what matters. Modern dating is a battlefield, and the men who win are the ones who understand communication. They know that every message is an opportunity to communicate their value. They know that women are bombarded with texts from men who don't understand how to create emotional impact. But you're not one of those men. You're the man who knows how to use words as tools, as weapons, as pathways to connection. And this message is one of the most powerful tools in your arsenal. Message 4. Good night. Let me know if I make a guest appearance in your dreams. There's a reason this message is so effective. It's pure intrigue. It's not just a goodnight text. It's an invitation to think about you in a way that feels exciting and new. When you send this, you're doing something that most men never do. You're giving her a reason to keep you on her mind long after the conversation has ended. And that's the key. You're not just texting for the sake of texting. You're creating an experience. Let's break this down. When a woman reads this message, she's immediately drawn into a playful scenario. She starts to wonder, what does he mean by that? Why would I dream about him? And the beauty of this message is that it doesn't answer those questions directly. It leaves room for her imagination to run wild. And as I said before, a woman's imagination is one of the most powerful tools you can tap into. This message also works because it's unapologetically bold. You're not asking her if she'll dream about you. You're telling her to let you know when it happens. That's a subtle but powerful difference. It's a display of confidence, of self-assuredness that most men simply don't have. And women notice that. They're drawn to it. Because confidence isn't just attractive, it's magnetic. But let's talk about why this matters in the context of modern relationships. We live in a world where attention spans are shorter than ever. Women are constantly being bombarded with notifications, messages, and distractions. If you want to stand out, you need to communicate in a way that cuts through all that noise. And this message does exactly that. It's short, it's intriguing, and it leaves her wanting more. And here's the kicker. This message isn't just about her. It's also about you. It's about showing her that you're the kind of man who doesn't play by the rules. You're not trying to be safe or predictable. You're not trying to impress her with cliches or empty compliments. You're showing her that you know how to have fun, how to keep things light, and how to create a connection that feels genuine and unique. Women crave men who can make them feel alive. Men who can take them on an emotional journey, even through something as simple as a text message. And when you send this, you're doing exactly that. You're giving her a reason to smile, a reason to think, and a reason to look forward to your next message. So here's what I want you to do. The next time you're about to send a goodnight text, stop. Don't send something generic. Don't send something safe. Instead, send this. Send, "Good night. Let me know if I make a guest appearance in your dreams." And then watch what happens. Because trust me, the reaction you'll get will be unlike anything you've experienced before. She'll be intrigued. She'll be curious. And most importantly, she'll be thinking about you. And that's how you win. Message 5. If you wake up with a smile, you'll know who caused it. Imagine this. She wakes up in the morning, and the first thing she does is reach for her phone. Her sleepy eyes scan through her notifications, and then she sees it, your message. And in that moment, she smiles. Why? Because you didn't just wish her a good night. You gave her something to think about, something to feel. You planted an emotional anchor that stays with her, even as she starts her day. That's the kind of power this message holds. It's not just a text. It's an experience. This message works because it's simple yet profound. You're not trying to overcomplicate things or sound overly poetic. You're speaking directly to her emotions, to her subconscious. You're creating a connection that feels personal and genuine. Most men don't understand this. They think that the key to a woman's attention is through grand gestures or constant communication. But the truth is, it's the little things, the subtle, impactful moments that make the biggest difference. And this message is one of those moments. When you tell her, if you wake up with a smile, you'll know who caused it, you're doing more than just wishing her well. You're taking responsibility for her happiness in a playful, confident way. You're asserting yourself as someone who has a positive influence on her life. And let me tell you something, women notice that. They notice the men who make them feel good, who make them laugh, who make them smile, and they remember those men. Think about how this message positions you. You're not begging for her attention. You're not trying to force a reaction. You're simply stating a fact, that you have the ability to impact her emotions. And that kind of quiet confidence is incredibly attractive. It's the kind of energy that sets you apart from the countless other men who are all vying for her time and attention. You're not just another guy in her inbox. You're the guy who makes her feel something. Now, let's talk about why this works from a psychological perspective. Women are wired to respond to emotions. They're naturally drawn to men who can make them feel a range of emotions: curiosity, joy, excitement. This message taps into all of that. It's light-hearted, but it's also layered with meaning. It tells her that you're thinking about her, that you care enough to send a message that's thoughtful and unique. but it also leaves room for her imagination. She starts to wonder, why does he think I'll smile? What does he know that I don't? And that curiosity is what keeps you on her mind. In today's world, where relationships are often shallow and transactional, this kind of emotional connection is rare. Women are tired of being treated like objects, like prizes to be won. They want to be seen, to be understood, to be valued. And when you send a message like this, you're showing her that you get it. You're showing her that you're not just another man who's following the same tired script. You're different. You're someone worth her time and attention. But let's be clear, this message isn't about seeking validation. It's not about waiting for her to respond with, "You're so sweet," or "You're the best." It's about planting a seed. It's about creating a moment that lingers in her mind, a moment that she associates with you, because at the end of the day, that's what matters. It's not about what she says in the moment. It's about how she feels when she thinks about you. And this message ensures that those feelings are positive, warm, and full of intrigue. If you're the kind of man who wants to stand out, who wants to be unforgettable, you need to understand the power of subtlety. You don't need to bombard her with messages or try to impress her with over-the-top compliments. You just need to make her feel something, and this message does exactly that. It's short, it's impactful, and it's impossible to ignore. Message 6. Good night. If you can't sleep, you know where to find me. This is the ultimate closer. It's not just a good night text. It's an open invitation. It's a message that says, "I'm here and I'm available, but only if you want me to be." And that's the key. You're not pressuring her. You're not demanding her attention. You're simply letting her know that the door is open. And in a world where most men are either too aggressive or too passive, this balance is incredibly powerful. When a woman reads this message, she feels a sense of comfort. She knows that you're there, that you're someone she can rely on, but she also respects the fact that you're giving her the space to make the decision. You're not forcing anything. You're letting things flow naturally. And that kind of confidence, that kind of self-assuredness, is magnetic. This message works because it taps into a fundamental truth about human nature. People are drawn to what feels safe yet intriguing. When you tell her, "If you can't sleep, you know where to find me," you're positioning yourself as a safe space, but you're also adding a layer of mystery. She starts to wonder, what would happen if I texted him? What would we talk about? Why does he feel so different from everyone else? And that curiosity is what keeps her engaged. Women value emotional safety. They want to feel like they can open up, like they can be themselves without fear of judgment. This message provides that emotional safety, tells her that you're there for her, that you're someone she can turn to when she needs it. But it also adds a layer of excitement. It's not just about being there, it's about being someone she wants to reach out to. And that's a powerful combination. This message also showcases your emotional intelligence. Most men would either send a generic good night or try to keep the conversation going long after it's run its course. But you know when to stop. You know how to leave things on a high note. And that kind of self-awareness is incredibly attractive. It shows her that you're not just texting for the sake of texting. You're communicating with intention, with purpose. And that's rare. In today's dating landscape, where most interactions are superficial and transactional, this kind of depth stands out. Women are tired of men who only care about what they can get. They want a man who sees them as more than just a conquest, who values them for who they are. And this message sends that exact message. It tells her that you're not just looking for a quick fix or a meaningless interaction. You're looking for something real, something meaningful, and that's what makes you different. So when you send this message, don't overthink it. Don't second-guess yourself. Send it with the confidence of a man who knows his worth. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is about. It's about showing her that you're not like the rest, that you're the kind of man who knows how to communicate in a way that's thoughtful, intentional, and unforgettable. These aren't just goodnight messages. They're messages to separate yourself from the masses, to stand out as the man who gets it. Women don't remember the ordinary. They remember the man who makes them feel, who sparks their curiosity, who stays in their mind long after the conversation ends. That's you now. If you're serious about leveling up, apply these messages tonight and watch what happens. And when you see the difference, come back and tell me in the comments. Hit subscribe if you're ready to master the art of connection, because every time you do, YouTube will share this with more men who need it. Be different. Be unforgettable. Now go make your move.